Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers that do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be among the heathen that look like the heathen. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And this is part 3 of Who Brought the Slaves to America. And not sure if it's going to be the final. It may be. Just trying to see. St. Benji called me. Slovakia. All right, okay, Slovakia. Yeah, we're gonna continue in the book. This is I'm on page 8, and there's a lot of imagery on page 9, and I'm gonna show you those images and the fact that these images right here. As a matter of fact, let me just show them to you now. This is a very famous image which people are used to seeing. But what they don't know is that the images are actually the images of Americans, of people who are actually here in America. These images that they used on there, they weren't even Africans. And when you read it, this is why when we tell you that they classify the native as colors, and when they in 1682 in Virginia, when they classified the Native American and the Negro as and the black as Negroes, as coloreds, because only the natives were exposed to smallpox. Smallpox wasn't an issue when the ships were coming from Africa. So that's another telltale sign. But it says to be sold on board ships. All right. I can't tell that word, but it says on Tuesday, 6th of May next, the Albany Ferry, I believe, the choice cargo, about 150 fine, healthy Negroes, just arrived from the Windward Rice Coast. And utmost care has already been taken. That shall continue to be kept. They should be continue to be kept them free from the. I can't tell what that is. Those old letters. The danger of being infected with the smallpox. No boat having been on board, and all the communication with people from Charles, whoever that is, prevented. So basically, they're letting you know that these Negroes, which were Native Americans here, didn't have smallpox. Remember, smallpox was not an issue for the transatlantic slave trade coming from Africa. Smallpox was an issue here in America because the native population was decimated purposely by the colonizing Edomites who came here and used chemical warfare or smallpox on them. And then later in 1682, when they were reclassified as Negroes, they used that sign, and I'm going to show the receipts, the evidences of everything that I'm saying here. Let me go to my evidence file photos collection. So yeah, evidence folder, and I know it's toward the bottom. Also proven Jeremiah 50:3. See here, yep, it was in my phone. All right, I found it, but let me go to a better one though. There's more at the bottom. I'm not sure what that's attached to. In fact, I think I want to. particular one. Oh, wait, let's just go to the bottom and work our way up. Here we go. So here's the very same sign. Oh, you can actually see it clearer on mine than you can on that image. All right. Yeah, your mine is actually clearer. I can actually read it. All right. But they didn't have smallpox. Okay. They were natives. But here we go. That. And see, these were Native Americans. They weren't. And see how dark they were? All right. Let's see if we can make this bigger. This was a famous book right here. And these were Native Americans. So they took these images of these Native Americans and they made that sign and tried to pass them off as being Africans. Okay. And here's another. Virginia passed, 2 acts in 1682. I hope I wasn't saying 18. Yeah, it was 1682. That combined Native Americans and Africans into one category as Negroes. See? So there you go. So when you get to this sign right here, when it says Negroes to be sold, well, they have been combined. And when they were talking about smallpox, remember, the slaves that came over on the transatlantic slave trade were not exposed to the smallpox. The natives were. Just want to drive that point home before I even begin reading. All right. So on page 8, it says, this gives one idea how the Jews managed to acquire tremendous fortunes following the bargaining Captain Freeman paid basically the slave trade. The Jewish people in America today, the old wealth that they have that's been passed down from generation to generation from the 1600s until now was primarily from the slave trade. All right. It says, following the bargaining, Captain Freedman paid the bill either in merchandise or cash. He also recalled some advice which his Jewish employer gave him as he left Newport for Africa. Pour much water into the rum as you possibly can. In this manner, Negro chiefs were cheated 2 times by Newport Jews, or Jewish people, because they were not Judeans. Remember, forget which lesson when I broke that down. They just kind of washed the two together. It didn't make the separation between the converts and the actual people who were from the tribe of Judah when they were talking about the time of John Hyrcanus and what was going on in Rome when Rome actually fell. Remember, you had Jewish converts fighting alongside the Judeans of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi against the Romans in 70 AD. You had Edomites who were actually fighting against their own people with the Israelites from the time that they had been forcibly converted by John Hyrcanus, and then they, and so after a couple generations, they really thought that they would have a part of the kingdom of heaven, and and trying to live by the laws. And when the Romans came against the Israelites and sacked, Jerusalem, you had Edomites that actually fought with them. All right, which really was a waste of their time because they, Edom, there's no chance of repentance for Edom. They can't get, no matter what they do, there's nothing they can do. Hebrews 12 chapter, and I think 14 through the 16th verse. Well, now that I said it, just so that I'm sure, let me go ahead and get it. It's Hebrews 12th chapter. And amazing, you got some groups out there call themselves Israelites that deny the book of Hebrews. It's 16 and 17. See, it was a good thing that I actually looked it up. And it reads, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. So Esau is rejected of the Lord. All right, there's nothing that he can do to redeem himself back. He cannot be redeemed. He's profane. He's outside the temple. All right, and the new temple being built is not a building, but the actual bodies of the 12 tribes, the awakening of the Negro, Latino, Native American, and of course the scattered among the heathen that are chosen to wake up. You know, it's all about the elect of Israel. Not even the rest of Israel is going to make it out of Babylon or from wherever they are to the kingdom alive. The 2/3 are already marked for death. Their destiny is sealed. The only difference between them and between Esau is that they'll be born into the kingdom perfect and then get to enjoy the kingdom. Where Esau, those of them that die in Babylon and wherever they die, when they're born again, they will be born right into slavery, into the same chains that you see, on the cover of the book, Who Brought the Slaves to America. Those men are chained together with yokes of iron around their necks and feet. All right. Second paragraph. The next step was to shave the hair from the head of the acquired slaves. Then they were bound and branded with hot iron, either on the back or the hip. And now they willfully do that with the fraternities, which the fraternities were set up by schools that were set up by Esau, by Edomites. All right. Spelman. I know Spelman and Morehouse played a big role in the start, especially Spelman, of the Greek fraternities. And these are basically the same Greeks that are back again, that were back during the time when the Lord died, who wanted to hold their position with Esau, forsaking their own way of life and cleaving unto the Greekish fashion. The Hellenist and the Hellenista. All right. So it's nothing has changed. So, being all proud about your AKA and your Omega Psi Phi, your Alpha Phi Alpha, and your newts, your bruhs, that's it's all really foolishness. It's kind of embarrassing. Oh boy. But anyway, it says the next step was to shave the hair from the head of the acquired slaves. Then they were bound and branded with hot iron, either on the back or the hip, identifying them with their owners. Now the Negro slaves was indeed the property of the Jewish purchaser. If he fled, he could be identified. Following this procedure, there was a farewell celebration. There was instances where entire families were brought out of the interior to the coast and then separated through the buyer. The fathers going on one ship, the son and daughter on another. These farewell celebrations were usually packed with emotion, tears, drama, and sadness. There was little joy, if ever. So no, it was no joy at all. How's it joy when your wife is being ripped from your arms, your child is being ripped from your arms, your son and daughter is being put on one ship, all right? Your wife is being put on one ship, and you're being put on another ship. And these damn slave handlers are already fondling your wife and your daughters before they even get on the ship. You already know what's going to happen to them. That's in your head. And the fact you're chained up and can't do anything. How the hell could there be any joy in this? And then, of course, the branding, that's what they intend to do modern day with the micro C hip, which is in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, from the 16th verse on down to the end, basically. So they, that's what that branding was all about. And that's what they want to do now with the digital thing. But, we don't want to get off subject. Let's stay on it. Third paragraph. The following day, the transport began from land to ship. It was managed by taking four six Negroes at a time in rowboats to the ship, and they left from a castle, from a fort. And there were forts all over North and West Africa, castles. So, all that they lived in huts and only in huts, that's a lie. Their images of the same castles that were built up in Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. There were castles, and likewise, all across the northern and western parts of Africa, from Mali all the way to the coast. All right. But it says the following day, the transport began from land to ship. It was managed by taking 4 to 6 Negroes at a time in rowboats to the ship. Of course, the slave dealers were aware of how the Negro loved his homeland above all. All right, and their homeland was Jerusalem. Africa was not their home. All right. So, the writer of this book, there's spot point on with a lot of things, but then they're off with other things. It says, and this is how you know it wasn't written by an Israelite, because not once, I don't think it was, because not once have they identified them as being the Israelites. However, they're very adamant about identifying the Jewish people as being the number one slave traders, because they were. All right. It says they were the beneficiaries of it. Some of the Negroes would manage to free themselves on the short trip to the ship, and they would leap into the water. But here the overseers were prepared with sharp dogs, retrieving the fleeing men. Other Negroes preferred to drown. What came aboard alive was immediately undressed. Here was another opportunity to jump overboard and reach the land and freedmen. But the slave dealers were pitiless and ruthless. They were merely concerned to get their black cargo to America with the least loss. Therefore, an escaped recapture, both his legs were cut off before the eyes of the remaining Negroes in order to restore order. On board, matter of fact, let me grab a scripture. I've read it before. I'm sure I'll read this one again. This is Zechariah 11:5. And it reads, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord. Or blessed be, for I am rich. And their own shepherds pity them not. Next paragraph. On board the ship, the Negroes were separated into three groups. The men were placed in the part of the ship, the women in another, whereby the lusty captain arranged so that the youngest, most comely Negro woman were accessible to him. The children remained on deck, covered with a cloth in bad weather. In this fashion, the slave ship proceeded on its journey to America. In the main ships were too small and not at all suitable to transport people. They were barely equipped to transport animals, which the Negroes were likened to. In one space, 1 meter high, 39 inches, these unfortunate creatures were placed in horizontal positions, pressed together. Mostly they were chained together. In this position, they had to remain for 3 months until the end of the voyage. Rarely was the captain who sympathized with them or evidenced any feelings whatsoever for these pitiful creatures. Occasionally, they will be taken in groups to the deck for fresh air and shackled in irons. Wow. So this advertisement came out of it. So now we know where it came from. This is giving you, I've never known this very famous, this one that we're talking about. All right. It's very famous. All right. It's telling you that it was a advertisement out of the Charleston newspaper in 1775. These particular slaves were valued for their knowledge of rice culture, so they usually brought their Jewish owners a higher price, right? Like I said, and knowing that those were natives. Let's get that Jeremiah 50:33 again. All right, because like we said, there's millions of people walking around being referred to as Negroes that are actually Native Americans. But this is Jeremiah 50:33, and it reads, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel, that will be the northern kingdom, so-called Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, the Reubenites. I believe the Crete, one brother was identifying that the Crete were also Reubenites, not Gadites. All right, but it says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. All right. And it says, yeah, remember what I told you, natives were exposed to smallpox, not Negroes. So that sign came out of Charleston. All right. So that, you know, so this Esau leaving those receipts telling on themselves. Then on to the right here, it's giving you the shackles of iron, the different types of shackles that they put on their hands and feet and around their necks. All right. It says, to the right, the standard equipment for all slave ships. A was a pair of iron handcuffs, which the right wrist of one slave is padlocked, and the left wrist of another. So I guess that's the one at the top. All right, showing you the book. That's the one at the top. All right, and then it says B is a pair of leg irons for toe slaves. O, D, and E is an instrument of torture. All right, a thumb screw. F, G, so it's not showing you all of them. It's just telling you. F, G, and H is a speculum oris for the mouth opener for slaves who refuse to eat. All right. So yeah, these are some of those devices. And we keep asking. I've been asking for years. You know, where are the images of the Jewish people with yokes of irons around their necks and feet and naked? You know, like the curses, like the prophecy of the curses said that they would be. Right? Because that never happened to Esau. Esau was the one inflicting these things. Right? Proving who Esau Edom is. And as a matter of fact, going back to those images, right there next to those images, it pretty much told you in their own source. Here it is, the Jewish Almanac, 1980. Okay? The Jewish Almanac, 1980, page 3. The Jews admit that they are not descendants of the ancient Israelites in their writings. Under the heading in this brief history of the terms for Jew in 1980 Jewish Almanac. All right, right there, that highlighted portion, it says, and it says it at the bottom. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew. When I said that controversy about that word Jew, or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. It also tells you that modern Jewry is of Edom, and a couple different of their almanacs. They're and they're different encyclopedias. All right. So with that, I'm gonna give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Wakak Wadash, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom.